With the Season 19 Stasis buffs to Whisper of Rending, giving our primary ammo weapons about 40% more damage to frozen targets, as well as a lot of arc weapons coming out with Voltshot, and the fact that Stasis weapons, Font of Might, and Supreme Wellmaker are the easiest way to get a ton of damage during a day one raid or a legendary campaign in a new expansion. I really wanted to put together a Stasis Hunter build. If you're more of a Void Hunter, I totally get it, and I have another video with a Void Tether Volatile build with their Gerfalcon's Herberg. This one, however, is going to focus on Stasis, and there are a lot of great things going on for Stasis Hunter right now. In the background, you're going to be seeing some Heist battlegrounds on Legend difficulty, duoing it with one other person with a Solar Warlock. And it's on Mars, so that enemy density gets crazy on those points. It will give you kind of an idea of how this performs in content that is locked to 10 below your light level. I'm also going to have some footage of a Master Lost Sector from the Throne World, which is notoriously the worst Lost Sector to run on the Throne World. But if you didn't know, in Season 19 we got a buff to Whisper of Rending, and so much was going on with the volatile Void Gerfalcon's Hunter that I feel like this one slipped under my radar. However, we're circling back to Stasis and we're checking it out again. Whisper of Rending got a buff, so now it's not just kinetic weapons that get that buff to frozen targets and stasis crystals, but it's also anything that does primary ammo. So if we pair that with a lot of awesome primary ammo weapons in the meta right now, that is going to make for some awesome mobbing. Now you could also pair this with an exotic and get even more damage versus those red bars from the previous buff that we got a while back. However, the main primary weapon I'm going to be looking at here is Ikelos, because it comes with Voltshot. You can craft it. It's fairly easy to get those 5 red borders this season. However, if you get one with Voltshot, I would highly recommend just hanging on to it because it's going to be amazing for you. I've chosen to go with Threat Detector. Of course, you can choose Feeding Frenzy if you want as well. I just prefer Threat Detector because you don't have to get a bunch of kills in order to proc the reload stability and handling. You just have to be in close proximity. But this is going to be our main weapon when mobbing. And then for the heavy, you're going to want to go for either rockets. We've got Hothead here. We've also got Anarchy if you're going against a lot of tanky yellow bars, but they're not bosses. That's when you want to use Anarchy. We've got Half Truths here, which is an arc sword that you can use as just a mobbing weapon. There's lots of other heavy arc weapons as well if you need some for mobbing, like Thunderlord is a great one, Grand Overture is a great one. Legend of Bakris could be cool for boss fights. We've also got Wardcliff Coil. So those are all really fun arc weapons that you can use and get that Bakris extra arc damage boost. It's 10% with arc weapons after you dodge, and an additional 10% for slowed. So if the target is slowed and you're using arc, it's going to be an extra 20% damage that you're doing. For special weapons, we've got Cold Heart, which is great for spamming your abilities, especially if you have the Catalyst there. Cloud Strike Catalyst came out this season, is another amazing DPS weapon if you can hit your crits. We've got the Trace Rifle Path of the Least Resistance, which has Voltshot on it, so I'd highly recommend picking this one up, trying to pick up a regular one or crafting it if you get the borders. And then we've got Forbearance here, which has always been a beast. You can get it from Val the Disciple raid. It's got Chain Reaction on it. It's an amazing weapon to pick up as well. Now for kinetic weapons, I would highly recommend Ager's Scepter. It's going to help you freeze. It's going to give you that 40% straight off the bat. You can get 1 kill with Ager's, freeze all the other enemies, and then switch to Ikelos and just clean them up with that extra damage boost. Arbalist is always a good play. It's an amazing kinetic weapon because you don't have to worry too much about shields, so then you can always just bring your arc. We've also got Jararaka Scout Rifle this season that is Stasis, which is a really good play. We've got a couple fusion rifles here, Riptide and Deliverance. Blood Feud is an amazing stasis weapon that comes with Swashbuckler, which is really easy to proc max stacks of that with your shurikens. And then this season we've also got a Stasis 900 SMG that's going in that kinetic slot. So next up, getting into the build, we're going to go into the Stasis subclass. I'm going to show you guys my aspects and fragments. Now for the dodge, I do have Gambler's Dodge because I like getting that melee up and I like using that melee to get a bunch of shards. You could go for the Marksman Dodge. It is faster and it's going to reload your weapon, so it's a little bit of quality of life, but it's your choice there. We have Triple Jump, Withering Blade is our shuriken, and then we've chosen Dustfield Grenade. And then for 2 aspects, I'm actually going for Winter Shroud and Grim Harvest. Grim Harvest is a must. This is giving us 3 fragment slots, first of all. It's also giving us stasis shards, and these shards are going to give us melee energy and they're going to make elemental wells for us with one of the mods that we have on our armor. The second aspect is Winter Shroud. This gives us 2 fragment slots and it also slows nearby targets when we dodge. Now this is going to help proc that Bakris damage that we've got after we dodge. We want enemies slowed and we want to do arc damage, and then it helps to freeze them a little bit quicker if you've got something like your Dustfield Grenade. However, if you want to go for something a little more tanky, a little more damage resistant, say you're doing a day 1 thing or something legendary, you could also swap out to Touch of Winter and then swap some of your fragments for more damage resistance, which I'll talk about now when we get down here to the fragments. So your must-have fragments are going to be Whisper of Rending, because that's the 40%. I think it's like 42% or something. Whisper of Fissures, which is going to increase the damage and size of the burst of stasis when you destroy a stasis crystal or defeat a frozen target. So this is going to help you chain burst damage and all that stuff in a bigger area when you're mobbing. The third one here is Whisper of Durance. This is going to give you increased time on your slow abilities, which is really important when we get increased damage to those slowed targets. And then Whisper of Rhyme is going to give us an overshield every time we collect a stasis crystal. And I believe if your health is not full, it's actually going to give you 12.5 HP as well. So this one's really nice to be a little more tanky. And then Whisper of Connection is going to give you stasis shards tracked to your position. It's 15 meters they start tracking, which I think is super important and really nice quality of life. So like I said, if you want to go with Touch of Winter, I would swap out Pry Fissures maybe. I don't know, I like having this increased damage and size, but you would want to swap this out and go for something like Whisper of Shards to get that grenade recharge back when you shatter the crystal that's inside of the new enhanced Dustfield Grenade. So you could go with something like that and focus more on slowing with your grenade instead of your dodge. The other fragment you can go for is Whisper of Chains. This is going to give you a resistance when you're near frozen targets or a friendly stasis crystal. So if you have that Dustfield nade with the crystal inside, you can reliably get that damage resistance. So that's what I'm running on my subclass, and a couple different options for a more like resistance focused build. Now let's head on over to the armor. So for the 5 mods, I'm going to do it this way. For the 5 mods that you want to equip, we've got Reactive Pulse, Warmind's Protection, Elemental Shards, Elemental Charge, and High Energy Fire. Now a couple of these you can change out depending on what you're doing. So first up, we've got Elemental Shards. This is a must-have, has to go on your build. This is going to turn all of your stasis shards into elemental wells. Now if you don't have this, for whatever reason you weren't playing during that or whatever, I would go ahead and put Melee Well Maker. This is going to make stasis shards when you get those melee kills, and then just focus on getting some melee kills when you open up the fight. That's completely fine to do. Of course, it's going to be 4 energy versus a 2, so you lose a little bit of energy on your armor, but that's going to be a must, a way to make wells. Now with those wells, we're going to become Charged with Light. So Elemental Charge is going to give us 2 stacks of Charged with Light every time we pick up a shard or well. And then with that Charged with Light, we're going to be doing a couple things. So we've got Reactive Pulse here, which I absolutely love. I haven't used it in a long time, but Reactive Pulse is just something that goes off whenever you're charged with light and you take damage and you're surrounded, right? Which is a lot of these activities with a lot of enemies going on. You're going to emit a burst of damaging arc energy. It's also going to consume 1 stack of Charged with Light. And if you have an arc mod, so I suggest putting this on your helmet and make your helmet arc so that you can get arc siphon. This is going to give you orbs of power every time you get double kills with your arc weapon, so our Ikelos, or if you have a heavy or something like that. But having this equipped is also going to enable us to get the secondary perk on here, which says gain a powerful overshield while performing your finisher. So this is going to be great at high level activities like GMs, like legend stuff, like the legend campaign coming up, day 1 raid, all that good stuff. So having that overshield when you perform a finisher is a really nice, like, kind of get out of jail free card if you're taking a lot of damage. And then the next charge with light mod we have on here is high energy fire. Now this is going to give you a bonus to weapon damage. Each defeated combatant consumes 1 stack of charge with light. So this is really good if you're not playing with like a well warlock or a radiant warlock, somebody that's giving you radiant, because it does not stack with radiant and it does not stack with well. But this is an extra 20% to add on to your weapon damage. If you are playing with a well warlock or getting radiant or any of the other buffs that don't stack with high energy fire, you could also take this one off and you could put on one of the seasonal mods like Weekend Clear. You could also put on solo operative if you're doing things solo. That's a great one to add on that just is on top of everything else. I also really love running a Stasis class item on Hunter because of Utility Kickstart. Utility Kickstart is insane. I would recommend running double Utility Kickstart on your cloak. If you don't have max mobility, then it's going to kick in, especially with Mask of Bakris, because we have that cooldown time anyway where we're not getting our dodge back. This is going to help us just jumpstart it when it's ready to get back. Now the last mod on here is kind of personal preference and based on what you're doing. If you're just screwing around, you're not going to need Warmind's protection, but Warmind's protection is really great in high-end content, like I said. So we're already using Ikelos. It can already generate Warmind cells. All we need to do is pop on at least 1 Warmind mod in order to start dropping them. So Warmind's protection is great because it's not going to be affected by like if people destroy them or not, like if you're just in general matchmaking or something, but you're going to take reduced damage from enemies that are near those Warmind cells. So you're not even focused on shooting the Warmind cells. You don't have to blow them up, you don't have to collect them, you don't have to do anything. You just take less damage to enemies that are near them. So it's a really nice fire and forget type of thing. Just put it on your armor and forget about it. The other Void Warmind cell mod you could put on here as well is Power of Rasputin. This is going to give you an additional 10% damage to all enemies that are near the Warmind cell. This is a bonus on top of literally everything else. So this stacks with any artifact mods, it stacks with any empowering buffs, any global buffs, anything you got going on. This is going to stack with it. So that's another great one. The other one is going to be an arc piece, so I would swap this elemental charge over to that void arms, and then I would put this on here. This one is good for like if you really like thematic builds and you are in maybe like a little bit lower content. However, I will say in the legend gameplay in the background, I did have this Warmind cell modular lighting on. So this mod, modular lighting, says collecting a Warmind cell creates a burst of chaining arc energy around you. So it's very similar to Dune Marchers or the reactive pulse, where it's going to chain lightning to enemies that are near. And I looked this up, it is 220 damage. That shocked effect will chain to up to 3 enemies that are not shocked. So it has the potential to like infinitely chain. However, I have found that it's a little buggy. It seems like sometimes it just doesn't work, but all you have to do is stand on top of the Warmind cell and it will start that chain lightning. I found it was just a fun mod to play around with. I'm not sure if the arc damage gets a bonus from Bakris. However, I do know that reactive pulse does, so I would assume that this mod would too, but you never know. You don't get numbers from this mod, so it just does an arc pulse. It doesn't show you any numbers, so I can't really figure it out even if I wanted to. But that is it for the build, guys. I know there's lots of options that I went over, but there will be a dim link down in the description below so you can get started on it. I hope that helped you guys out and you enjoy it. Like I said, if you're more of a Void Hunter, check out my other video of the volatile Gerfalcons. That one's really fun as well. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.